this gives us time to look ahead to the upcoming NFL season. The countdown till the start of the NFL season continuing to tick away. We're only 50 days away from the new year when the Rams and Bills kick off the 2022 season. The Rams hope to run it back this year as the reigning Super Bowl champions. But for Buffalo, rookies already reporting to training camp this week in hopes of finally bringing a Lombardi Trophy to Buffalo for the first time in franchise history. Well, now joining us, our NFL writer, Ryan Wilson. And I got to say, Ryan, I love chatting with you because it means we are that much closer to the start of the season. The Rams, they start to defend their title on Thursday Night Football, September 8th, there against the Bills. And over the past few years, Buffalo's been one of the favorites to make it and win the Super Bowl. But for you, Ryan, which Week 1 matchup are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, Rams and Bills is intriguing for all the reasons that you mentioned there. There's some other games keeping on as well. Maybe the Pats and the Dolphins. You see Mac Jones, you see Tua Tagovailoa with those new weapons around him. But instead, I'm going to go with the Raiders at the Chargers. You mentioned that Darren Waller's looking for a new deal. He deserves it. We have Derek Carr, who said the other day that maybe people aren't taking them as seriously as they should. I'm taking them plenty seriously. With Josh McDaniels, Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, that offense is going to be stacked. And then you talk about the Chargers. The Chargers, they're not going to sneak up on anyone. We know how good they can be. It starts with Justin Herbert. But defensively, they're going to be a lot better. Offensively, they have Keenan Allen. They have a lot of playmakers. That offensive line is going to be really good. They've gone first round and back-to-back offensive line to help Justin Herbert there. And I think they're going to continue to make a lot of noise in the AFC and make a lot of noise in that division. So I want to see what happens Week 1 in this matchup. Of course, this game that we're watching here determined who won the playoffs last year. Had they tied, both teams would have gone. Instead, the Raiders kicked that field goal there, and they ended up going to the playoffs, and the Chargers went home. I think that's going to change in the upcoming season in that the Raiders may very well end up there again, but I think the Chargers also have a really good opportunity to find their way to the playoffs.
That's exactly what sticks out to me. Justin Herbert on the sideline there mouthing, "I've never wanted to tie so bad." Maybe get a little redemption there come Week 1. But thinking big picture, Ryan, this was one of the most active quarterback carousels that I remember in the offseason. And I want your opinion. Which team do you think made the best move offensively this offseason?
Yeah, this offseason was crazy. It felt almost like the NBA in terms of players moving around. That's not typically how the NFL works. It's getting more and more like that as the years have passed. Recently, and maybe Devontae Adams, who you and I talked about before he came on air, him moving from Green Bay to Las Vegas, that will certainly be something to keep an eye on. Matt Ryan going to Indianapolis in a post-Carson Wentz world is certainly noteworthy. But I'm going to go with Russ Wilson going from Seattle to Denver. He had made it clear for quite some time that he wanted out of Seattle. He did it very nicely, and his dreams came true over the offseason. And now he's in Denver, which on paper is certainly a better football team. The issue is they play in the AFC West, the toughest division on planet Earth. But if you want anyone to lead your offense, especially after Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater had, let's be honest, marginal success, Russ Wilson would be the top of that list. So they paid a king's ransom to get him. Now he's there, and now the pressure will be on to win a lot of football games. You see Peyton Manning there and Tom Brady. That's a great list to be associated with. But I think Russ Wilson going to Denver automatically puts them in the playoff conversation and probably the Super Bowl conversation, because that's how important he is, not only to Seattle over the last decade, but now in Denver, Mile High City.
Well, we know that curly hair Russell Wilson can bring that swag. We'll see how he can do there. As we saw with the Rams this past season, the old adage, defense wins championships, it really rang true. Who do you think made the best move on that side of the ball this offseason?
By the way, it always hurts me a little bit when B-Mac calls him curly-haired Russ Wilson, because my curly hair fell out a while ago. I am a Wilson, but I didn't get those wonderful locks. So one more difference between me and Russ Wilson, even
just
though
the only
somewhere
one.
Maybe we're related, Sherry. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The check is in the mail. In terms of the best defensive move over the offseason, there's a lot to choose from. Von Miller going to the Bills, which was a surprise move. A lot of people didn't see that coming into the last minute. Chandler Jones goes from Arizona to Las Vegas to bolster that defense. But I'm going to go with Khalil Mack leaving Chicago and landing on the Chargers, a team I've been talking about in the last few moments about how the expectations are going to be through the roof, but how they're going to be so incredibly dominant on both sides of the ball. Khalil Mack obviously is a top edge rusher in the NFL. He came out gangbusters when he first came into the league. Obviously, John Gruden traded him for some reason to the Bears. He had a strong start there. Injuries sidelined him towards the end of his run in Chicago, and now he is in Los Angeles, where I think he has a chance to be not only an immediate impact player, but he's lining up opposite Joey Bosa, as you see here, and that's going to be a big issue for not only every team in the AFC West, but every team that's on the Chargers schedule. So I love this move to sort of balance out all the moves they have offensively that's going to make them so incredibly dangerous. Now, not only with Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen, but also with Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, and Derwin James.
Well, taking a step back here, one of my favorite aspects of the offseason is the optimism. Every fan in the country thinking this time of year, this is our year, myself included. Rams fans, though, they do have the bragging rights. Which fan base do you think will have see the biggest improvement from their team this season?
No, you're exactly right. From about May after the draft until training camp start, hope is everyone's favorite team because you have hope that this is the year that you turn it around. And I think a team that's done more than any other, the Chargers are obviously up there. We've talked about them, the Broncos as well. But I think what the Eagles have been able to do to surround Jalen Hurts with so many playmakers and also get a lot of help on defense is going to be incredibly important to his development. It starts with A.J. Brown. They've had mixed success in terms of drafting wide receivers. I think Devontae Smith was a home run last year, but obviously Jalen Reagor, Judge Arcega-Whiteside, mixed results there. So go out and get A.J. Brown, who's an absolute home run hitter as a deep threat. He can take the ball, take a short slant to the house. He can do it any number of ways. So I love what they've done there. I also love the fact that they got Hassan Reddick, the edge rusher. He's back. He went to Temple. He's back in Philly now. James Bradbury. Then they drafted Jordan Davis and his teammate Nakobe Dean. You see that there. Out of Georgia, and Cam Jurgens, the center out of Nebraska, is also a name to keep an eye on. Jason Kelsey's not going to play forever. He may retire after this year. Cam Jurgens is a solid backup plan, literally and figuratively, and I love what the Eagles have done. And they're in a division, Sherry, that's not very good. So you tweak a few things here, win one or two more football games, you have a chance to win that division outright.
I just wrote down that note, NFC East up for grabs. Maybe it's Philly's year again. But Ryan, who do you see taking a step back come this season?
So I don't know if this means this team is going to be a 500, hover around 500 team, or maybe they're just going to win 9 or 10 football games. But a year ago, the Tennessee Titans went 12-5. And on some level, you understand why the division they played in wasn't very good. Ryan Tannehill flashed at times. And, of course, you have Derrick Henry running over people. But Derrick Henry got hurt, and then he came back for that playoff game, the home game, against the Bengals. He didn't look quite himself, and you could understand that after the long layoff with the foot injury. But Ryan Tannehill looked dreadful. He threw some terrible interceptions, especially those at the end of the game that cost them that football game. And I wonder now with Matt Ryan in Indianapolis if that's a team that's going to make a move. I think as we sit here, Vegas has the Colts as the favorite to win that division by a little bit. But would I come back to this? Do you want Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, or do you want Matt Ryan and Jonathan, the running back
Jonathan
there.
Taylor on Wisconsin, baby, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Wisconsin, thank you. I'm sorry I missed on the Badger right there. But you obviously, I think the layup is Jonathan Taylor and Matt Ryan. So I think that, in addition to the better offensive line, in addition to a slightly better defense, leads me towards Indianapolis winning that division, and the Titans taking a step back from those 12 wins. We mentioned A.J. Brown now in Philadelphia. Treylon Burks, the first-round pick, has to fill that role. We'll see if that happens. And the Titans could be more likely to win 9 or 10 games, which, again, could put them in the mix for the playoffs, but I don't think they're winning the division.
Well, as training camps get underway this week, the picture of who these teams will be becomes just even clearer. What's a bold prediction, Ryan, you have for this upcoming season?
I sort of hinted at it over the last few minutes here. And I don't know if it's incredibly bold, but I think it is. When you're in a division with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, even though Tyreek Hill is now in South Florida, I think the Chargers are winning the division. And part of me is saying that just to be different. But also, I love Justin Herbert. I was not high on him coming out of Oregon, and every time I talk about Justin Herbert, I apologize for missing on that, but he is an outstanding player. I know coaches on that staff think he has an opportunity to be better than Patrick Mahomes, and that doesn't sound like hyperbole to me if you've seen him play. I mentioned the playmakers around him. They drafted Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman, 2 years ago. Last year, a few months ago, they drafted the offensive lineman, Zion Johnson, out of BC. Those are going to solidify that offensive line. We talked about Khalil Mack, Derwin James. They made some huge signings in the offseason, Justin Jackson. I could go on and on. I think this is the year they turn the corner, avoid sort of the hiccups they've had when they charger it up, including last year's non-tie with the Raiders that cost them a playoff spot. And I think they find a way to win not only this division, but the toughest division in football and get people's attention like they've been doing, but this time they get over the hump, Sherry.
All right, we'll talk about getting us excited for the start of the NFL season, only 50 days away. Ryan Wilson, always appreciate the time, my friend.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.